YouTube. Good night, and welcome to Mindful Live 490. I am your co-host Nathan Springer, joined by the wonderful, beautiful, brilliant host. What's your name, host? Leah Lois Springer. Alright, host, you can return and find your triangles and return with a shape you want to show. Alright, what we're talking about tonight. Who run the world? Girls. Who run the world? Girls. At least regarding Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago is run by women. People, ladies and gentlemen of Trinidad and Tobago, we are a female-led country. Our president is a woman. Our prime minister, well, at least being official by tomorrow, is a woman. Our opposition leader is a woman too. Poor Tanti Erla. Poor Tanti Erla. If Tanti Erla held on there for what, 2 more months? 4 more months? No, 2 more months. Hey, just asking. Good night. If Tanti Erla held on there just a couple more months, and Tanti Erla would have made it 4 ladies just sitting at the top there. Imagine that. The head of our industrial court also was a lady. You built another one? What's that, another pyramid? Yeah. You don't have enough to build your other shape? History in the making. Yes, it is history. It is historic. History has been made in TNT as we now have a female president, a female prime minister, and a female leader of the opposition serving concurrently for the first time. Our attorney general might also be a woman. I don't know. I feel not. I don't know if the UNC has high-profile female lawyers that they seem to lean on that much. The one lawyer, female lawyer that comes to mind is Ms. Lochmedial, Ms. J&T Lochmedial. I don't know if she is held in such high regard inside of the UNC, but that's, I think, by and large, the highest general UNC lady lawyer. Of course, other than Mrs. Prasad herself. Mrs. Prasad Bisessa, sorry. Time for the fellas to rock back. All right. Okay. So, in Trinidad, it's time for the fellas to rock back and watch the ladies run it, apparently. It would have been interesting if Tanti Erla made it a little longer. Maybe that lawsuit that she currently has working through the courts, somewhere they hit an injunction, something, and they forced to bring back Tanti. Just for the picture. Imagine how that picture would look. We could sell Trinidad as the gender equality capital of the world. Could imagine if we have a lady commissioner, prime minister, president, opposition leader. Line off. You build another pyramid? Ooh, this one isn't exactly a pyramid. This one looks kind of like a diamond.
It looks like a diamond.
Yes. Be careful with that gender word. Don't give them ideas. Sir, I don't have to give them ideas. They're already at the top in Trinidad here. Ladies run it here. For what that is worth. And to be fair to Tanti Camps has said this a while now. She said she doesn't believe that there's any gender inequality in Trinidad. She said that big and bold already. Who's the opposition leader? One Miss Penelope Beckles Robinson. Penelope Beckles Robinson and Camille Robinson Regis. That Robinson seems to be a common name there. It works for the Vikings when the men were at war, the women ran things. Well, I mean, in any civilization, when the men aren't around, well, the women would have to, by and large, pick up the slack. The truth be told, though, there haven't been many matriarchies, at least successful matriarchies, that have existed. So maybe we're heading the direction of a matriarchy. Miss Penelope seems dignified. Here's the thing. There are lots of people out there that are of the view that if Tanti Penny went up for election instead of Stewart, that the result would have been much different. That is wrong. That is wrong. You are of that view because you haven't seen the UNC begin an attack on Mrs. Robinson, Beckles Robinson. The people want to change good vibe. Yes, that is apparent. I don't think anyone from that administration would have won. That's what the results tell you. I don't think if Penny went up, it would have made much of a difference. So maybe politically it was a good move for her to escape that licking, because that's not a licking you want on your political resume. That it may not have knocked Stewie totally out of the running, but that certainly would have pushed him back a little bit. It certainly would have stunted him a bit. Now Ms. Beckles could come in there. Now, to be honest, though, I hope this isn't the direction they're going to go, but I'm already seeing the groundwork being laid. I beg the women of the PNM, the young millennial Afro-Trinidadian women of the PNM, I beg of you, do not make it into a black woman thing. Don't do that. I don't know if you all picked it up when I forgot her name, the other lady who is sometimes in the live recently, the PNM lady from Tabakit. When she was speaking about Penny, she said the reason they didn't choose Penny is because certain people will never want to see a woman of a certain demographic lead. I heard when she said that. I just pretended I didn't. And the truth is that I've seen that undercurrent quite a bit. And if, because there is a large contingent of PNM support that overlaps with that universal liberal style support, the PNM Twitter posse, the PNM university educated posse, and they buy into a lot of the Americanized style of politics. If they try to Kamala Harris this black woman thing, that's going to be a failing strategy here. It's going to be a failing strategy here. Don't do it. I urge you, don't do it. You all see how early I'm saying this, eh? Some of you may not have seen it yet. Say like, but what Nathan talking about here? But what Nathan Springer talking about? This don't make it. Listen what I'm saying. And look out for it. I ask of them not to do that. Don't do it. Because it's not going to win here. It's not going to be successful. Personally, no shade meant to Ms. Beckles Robinson, but I'm not enthused about her leading the country per se. I don't know. I don't know what people have seen that maybe I have not, but I haven't seen anything that makes my hopes soar. I want to hear Randall Fields and the single fathers with this. Hey, host, come. We wonder what the fathers have to say about the women running things. And here's my thing on this, women doing what women can do is that's great and all. But then what we really have to stop doing in this case is we have to stop anything that attempts to help women succeed preferentially to men. It disturbs me in our country when I still see things reaching out to only women entrepreneurs and girls in STEM and all these sorts of things. I'm like, wrong country. Pamela Elder for Attorney General. Hey! But as far as I know, there is no link between her and the UNC. I don't know. As far as I know, I haven't seen a link there. But that would be interesting, won't it? Heading and go, Dodo. Tell the people bye-bye.
Bye.
Tell the people bye.
Bye.
And take your triangles. Yeah. We are being run by women up on top. It's women in charge out here. Women in charge. And you know, looking back on the we discussed yesterday in the live, and it seems like the entire news kind of followed our live after. The live topic of ours yesterday was speaking about the fact that PNM lost this election more than UNC won it. And when you look at the numbers, many of the seats that UNC won, barring those two South seats, they seem to have obviously won over some PNM voters. But a lot of the seats that the UNC won, they didn't get many more votes than they usually got. It's that the PNM lost a lot of seats. A lot of voters, sorry, not a lot of seats alone. A lot of voters were lost. So who knows? This very incarnation of the PNM may be on the chopping blocks. Nice. This very incarnation, this very incarnation of the PNM may be on the chopping blocks because they failed. And there seems to be quite a few vultures circling over the PNM as it stands. Quite a few vultures are ready to pick at their bones. Unprecedented election loss? I wouldn't say so. It's not really unprecedented. I mean, in 2010, they lost about as comprehensively. They lost pretty comprehensively in 94. They lost comprehensively in 86. It's a kind of cycle that Trinidad goes on. It's a common cycle of Trinidad and Tobago, really and truly. So it's not without precedent in history. Where is this fly coming? It's not without precedent in history, really and truly. It's a common thing. It's a common theme. The PNM leads for a while. People get fed up of the PNM, and then they vote them out in large number. It's what shows the fact, something I always speak about here, speaking about our politics in Trinidad and Tobago. PNM is the larger party by and large, yes. UNC doesn't win without coalitions by and large, yes. But UNC has a way stronger and more stable base than the PNM. The PNM's base will leave the PNM every now and again and leave them to fall. Anytime PNM call a snap election, they lose. And that's a true thing, Ras. But here's what I wonder. I wonder if it is the chicken or the egg kind of situation. Is it that anytime the PNM calls a snap election, they lose? Or is it that the PNM actually, they know when they are losing their own support, and they attempt to snap elections to cut that off. They attempt to snap an election in there to cut that off. That's what I wonder. Natalie says I will be withholding my vote next election. I've made up my mind with their selection of Penny. I have no interest in necessarily seeing Penny be my prime minister. No, go do. And well, I don't have to withhold my vote because I have already voted for my alternative in that case. And the alternative I see, for me, the way I look at voting now, I am not focusing voting on who the leader of the country in general would be. I am focusing voting on attempting to get members of parliament that intend to be members of parliament. That's what I would do. The PNM was prepared to lose. That's why they were doing housekeeping before elections. Well, I guess they would have had to have been prepared to lose. We should be able to see more dignified behavior in Parliament now. I highly doubt it. And good vibes you're saying. People won't forget what the PNM did to them. Many people were saying that about Manning in 2010, and it only took 5 years for them to go right back to the PNM. So, what you have to bear in mind is the nature of elections is they generally vote people out. They generally vote people out of governance. It's not that they would be voting if 5 years come and they vote out the coalition. It's not necessarily that people would want to choose the PNM per se, but they would be voting out the coalition. Variable, new educated generation. If you say so, what are your views on the future of Trinidad? I would have to say hopeful. I'd be self-destructive to say I don't have hope for Trinidad. I think Trinidad has a setup to go many positive places. Good night, baby. I didn't look mommy there. Yeah. 868 just asking. Like, I find that's a very offensive statement. Are you saying the people who are alive in 2015 and voting weren't educated? What are you saying? Most of the people in this life currently were voters. The truth is, our EBC doesn't typically break it down by those ages. Our EBC doesn't typically break it down by those stats, but the chances are most of the people that voted in this election were over 30. Most of the people that voted in this election would have been over 30. Ghost and Christian Swain, why are you both posting the same thing? One more chance before you all are muted. They suffered the citizens with high cost of living. Is Trinidad's cost of living comparatively high to the regular outside there? If you go make groceries in Guyana, would you get a cheaper cost? Or Grenada or Barbados or Jamaica or any of our comparators in the Caribbean? So here's the thing, Ras. As I was telling people, you look at this election, and these aren't really the issues, you know. People would like to make it seem like this was all a well thought out decision. That this was, a reasoned decision where the general population of Trinidad sat down and thought to themselves, because of X, Y, Z, 2.3, that's why I'll do X, Y, Z. Not really. That's not really the case. People didn't vote because of a firmly evaluated position. It's vibe. It's vibe. Votes are done on vibe by and large. Look at the swing. The vibe of the PNM voters was nah. And that's all it took. Now, what would have caused that vibe? I said it last night. I think the two top contenders to what caused that vibe shift in the PNM was one Mr. Colm Imbert and one Mr. Fitz Hines. They caused that vibe shift in the PNM. You see, not all, but a lot of the pro-UNC people would have hated PNM either way and would have voted for UNC either way. They weren't the ones who decided the election. The ones who decided the election aren't people who hate PNM. The people who hate PNM, like PNM personally kicked the dog, aren't the people who won this election or lost the election for the PNM. The people that lost the election for the PNM would have very likely been some people with PNM party cards. So, what would have caused people with PNM party cards to jump off the PNM wagon or the PNM tree? That's the question you have to ask. Scarlet Red says the working class answered to the PSA president. Here's again why I don't necessarily believe that. The UNC increased their vote count from last election by about 20,000 votes. I'd say yes, I think some of that would be the unions. Some of that may be PEP and COP. But 20,000 isn't a massive amount. So I don't think that's necessarily enough to sway the whole thing. So I don't think PSA got their union workers to vote for UNC. I think the reason that the unions would have been confident enough to stand on the podium beside the UNC would be because they felt the vibe shift. They felt that the PNM had no one who was fervently supporting them anymore. From the numbers of it, it seems like maybe about 50,000 of those PNM voters just didn't vote, and another 50,000 spread out between the third parties by and large. Some in the two south seats, the two deep south seats, Point Fortin and is it Labrie? Those two seats, it seems clearly like some PNM voters switched to UNC. But beside that, across the country in general, when you look at the numbers, not many PNM voters seem like they increased the UNC vote. There was an increase for third parties and a severe lower voter turnout. But PNM thief enough, they didn't care to win. You know, that's the same thing they said back in 2015. And here's Mrs. Prasad Bisasa again, coming back for winning. It was said that the UNC thief so much they don't have to come back in governance again, but here they are again. So, if it is true that they stole so much, I don't know if that would mean that they don't care to win. They're in politics for winning. Splitting the vote affected the PNM. If you know, I hate that splitting the vote kind of talk. You owe no one your vote. Your vote isn't split by voting for someone else. I understand what you're saying, Ras. I'm just speaking on the political narrative that is spun with that. Your vote isn't split because you don't owe anyone your vote. You don't owe anyone your vote. So carry your vote where you think it would be best suited. I'm looking for someone who told me Michaela is not going to cross 1,000 votes in Couva North. And I told them for sure she's crossing the 1,000. She reached 1,700 and change. That's a good number, I think. 1,700 and change for a third party is a rare thing in Trinidad and Tobago politics, especially in the UNC safest seat of Couva North. I think Michaela Pandey would have been a beautiful MP for Couva North, and that's why I would have pushed that. That has nothing to do necessarily with the prime ministerial portfolio, because even if she won, it wouldn't have changed who would have been the prime minister. Well, of course she didn't win, Sparky. I didn't think she would win. I never said I thought she would win. We were looking, someone said she would lose her deposit for sure, and then someone said that she wasn't even going to cross 1,000. And I said, I think she is. And she did. And I think that's the basement there. That's the low mark. You could only go up from there once you stay. Once you stay. I like that. I would like that on our political landscape. That would do well. That would do very well. And what I don't like is many people from now till whenever next election is called, many people are going to be saying like, yes, oh yes, I like that there's a third party option then. Oh yes, Michaela, stay. Yeah, you did well, Michaela. And then come next election and their main party pulls the string that tied to their navel. They pull that string on their main party and they're like, fire upon them third parties. You red or yellow? And they run back in camp. If she went back to UNC, she would do well. I don't want her to go back to UNC. I'd like to see those parties disintegrate. Good Vibe asks, Al-Rawi will still be collecting rent. Yeah, just as the guy who owned the building on Ramsaran Street that was a former UNC MP still collected rent under the PNM. You see, some of y'all that buy too much into the political narratives fail to understand that it's a small club, including both sides and excluding you. You are not in the club. You think you're in the club because they come and mama guy you for your vote, but you're not in the club with them. You're not in the club. And they rent to their friends regardless of who wins. They give their friends, sons and daughters high position jobs regardless of who wins. And you eat the chain up and think, well, my side win now, so it's really we team, and it's we time now, and my people. Someone was in the live talking about my people and my people the other day. Your people? So your people? Are they your people? When they talk about 1%, they're talking about themselves, and you aren't in the 1% with them. Do you have buildings that the government rents from? Do you? UNC will never disintegrate, Sparky said. I don't believe that. I think they could very well disintegrate. I think that's not unlikely. Now, I don't think that the UNC core is going to never remain a political faction, but it doesn't have to remain with the UNC. It doesn't have to remain with the UNC. Their core could go to other people. Their core could split between multiple parties. COP was well on the way to disintegrating the UNC until they decided to fold everything into the UNC again. They were well on the way. If the COP remained, the ILP remained, and both of them continued work, the UNC could have easily have been assimilated into 3 separate parties there. UNC, COP, ILP. But the problem is that, generally speaking, most political parties in Trinidad and Tobago's political landscape, they're there as a one-man pressure group to get some power or position for whichever the man is that that is the founder of the party. And once that man gets what he wants, the party, to hell with that. It's to hell with that. Once the single man, whoever is the pressure group guy. Right now, I think the PNM disintegrated. 3 big guns already left. Who are the 3 big guns that left? Stuart, Rowley, and Rohan. They didn't leave. They resigned their positions, which is customary in their party. That's what, generally speaking, the PNM executive resigns every time they lose an election. That's how they generally run their party. The last 2 days, Philip trained them up, saying if UNC win, he will lock up people like that will happen. Chain them up. Bear in mind, as I said this before the election, I said if UNC wins, but now it's not if, it's when. When UNC won, the 7,000 give or take police officers that are in the employ of Trinidad and Tobago were the same officers before UNC won and remain the same officers after UNC won, you know. The idea that the UNC is going to go in there and magically do something about the crime is a difficult thing, It's a difficult thing because politicians in parliament don't solve crime. They don't lock up anybody. It's on the police. And if, I am not saying that the police are inept, but let's just say if the case is that the police are inept and they were inept last month, they would remain being inept at least until we hire some higher aptitude police. So on the locking up people from our side, I don't know, unless Mr. Alexander is going to personally go out there with a team and fight crime. I'm not so sure exactly how they're going to get that done very quickly, as some people are looking forward to. I think they need to bring back Gary to see some changes in crime. I doubt they'll do that. I doubt. It seemed like there was a comprehensive falling out between Gary and Mrs. Prasad Bisesa during the campaign there. I don't think they're looking for Gary. No politicians putting other politicians in jail, not in TNT. Few places in the world they do that. Few places in the world they do that. Here's why they don't do that. Here's part of why they don't do that. If the UNC comes into power now and starts throwing former PNM members in prison, very likely the people that stayed away from this last election, the PNM people, that will stir them up with loyalty for the PNM. If you look at Trump's poll numbers, he was basically failing in his comeback bid, you know, until they started locking the man up and giving him mug shots to put on jerseys and mugs and buttons and all over the place. Locking him up ignites his base, just as starting to lock up any political group would ignite their base. Not if they bring good cases. That's not how it works by and large. It would have to be a flawless case where you are convincing the supporters of the opposing party that you're locking up. It's there you have to convince. It has to be a really good case. Not that it's impossible, but it has to be really good. Because the chances are likely you are just going to stir up the opposing base. And the opposing base is very likely going to vote you out in the next election. And when they vote you out, the party that you just jailed some members from would be out for blood. The chances are high they would be jailing some of yours. And there are some countries that run like that. Basically, every government, when they lose power, they know they're going to jail. Was it South Korea that had a few elections precisely like that? This one when they throw the last one in prison. That one when they throw the last one in prison. The other one when they throw the other one in prison. And there's an argument about stability there. Where an argument, you could consider this. Consider the argument where even in the case of some criminal conduct, might it be beneficial for the stability of a country that even in the case of some criminal conduct, you by and large try to stay away from imprisoning politicians? Do so, don't like so theory? Well, do so, never like so. That's the truth. Ronnie says, nah. Everyone has info on each other, so they keep each other's secrets. No jail for politicians. Well, they allege that was guys like Epstein's whole job, to make sure that you have enough on enough people that enough people stay in line. Ronnie says, nah. I think, Ronnie, that's why we don't want a woman in politics, because they don't understand these complex decisions. I think though, on a real though, I think politics in reality has complexities to it. Politics in reality has complexities to it. If put me in a house, put you in a house, what you will make sandwich and shut up once you day. Let somebody put you in house and you done all this politics talk, you making sandwich and making babies barefoot in front of the stove, cool and calm. But yes, they are balancing acts. They are balancing acts to be done in politics. That's just the reality of it. They are balancing acts to be done in politics. There's a reason Uncle Yasin sit down in Mukarapo till his good old age. You understand what I mean? There are reasons for that. There are reasons that sometimes they attempt to make deals with the community leaders instead of frontal assault. So the idea of just jailing, throwing people in jail, you have to think about that carefully. Nathan optimistic about tomorrow swearing in. Optimistic about it for sure being interesting. I'd like to see who is the Attorney General. I'd like to see who is going to be the Minister of Trade, Foreign Affairs, CARICOM Affairs, those kind of issues. Very, very key to me. Minister of National Security. Those are the ones I'm very interested to see. National Security, Attorney General. To be honest, whoever the Minister of Works is, I'm not too bothered by that, to be honest, because contracts either way. Contracts gonna be running either way. I don't think the minister is going to have a whole big lot of individual input in that Ministry of Works. But foreign affairs is a literal diplomat. That person is the person who has to deal with the other people. Minister of Education, I honestly, again, that's not one I'm too bothered by. It might be interesting to see the direction the Ministry of Education may go, because currently there was some friction between the Ministry of Education and the religious boards for schools, with the Ministry of Education wanting to play a more pivotal role. It would be interesting to see which direction the UNC would take that. Hey, you, behave yourself. Very busy, Paul Duncan, very busy. I'm eager to see Minister of CARICOM of Foreign Affairs as well, Finance Minister as well. Something I've kind of recognized with the Finance Minister is the bearer of the bad news. It's not like necessarily those decisions come from that person. So even in that case, the Finance Minister is a functionary. They bring forward the ideas of their government. I don't think whoever the minister is would have a big impact either way. Minister of National Security, I think that individual could have some impact. Now, in terms of the management as such, but in terms of what Mr. Hines said, where he was wrong, where he said his job as the Minister of Education is not to make you feel safe. I think that is literally your job as the Minister of Education. National Security. I think that is literally your job as the Minister of National Security. Make the people feel safe. That's what it's about. And that's, to some extent, public relations. So it would be interesting to see who that minister would be. Philip getting public utilities. Public utilities is extremely important, as there's a lot of corruption that goes on that end. Lots of allegations swirling around all of that. But again, that's not one I'll be very interested in also, to be very honest. I'm looking forward to Mr. Alexander's maiden speech in Parliament. He'd be in the Senate though, so it's not like his speeches would necessarily be top news all the time. I think he's best for a minister in a ministry, honestly. I think they may do that. Junior minister in the ministry of. I don't know, but I don't foresee a full portfolio. That's my personal opinion. I might be wrong. I have been wrong before. It's not an unknown thing. But my personal opinion, I think minister in the ministry of. Riots continue in Guyana. They are now under a lockdown in Guyana. By the way, Guyana is seeing a surge in profits. At the same time with this unrest, the government over in Guyana is alleging that the opposition is playing a part in that. The opposition is stirring up that riot. And the thing with those riots is they decimate things. Schools are having low turnouts, businesses are being shut down. No. Which seat, Alexander? Oh, that Alexander. I thought you were talking about PEA. You talking about Roger. Well, oh. I'll be looking forward to that first speech too. I'll be very interested. You feel you have a darker zone in Parliament too? Run it like Dr. Williams back in the days. Hey, Ronnie, behave yourself. Behave yourself, eh? Behave yourself. They're bringing back Anil in sports. I wouldn't doubt that. It seems like Anil has his fans inside the UNC. That seems for sure to be the case. It seems like he has his fans, his supporters inside of the UNC, because it was high risk to bring Anil back as a frontline supporter and face, but they did. They brought him back right at the front. And if they were willing to bring him back on the campaign trail, I don't see that they won't bring him back in governance. Well, that's a whole other question, Paul Duncan? A whole other question. Where Jack going behind the scenes? Behind the scenes, they're not going to give Jack any front portfolio, I think. Remember, Jack is a pretty ageable man, one. And I think Jack is a man who doesn't mind wheeling and dealing behind the scenes too. That's not something that he seems to be averse to anyway. Put Jack back in TTFA. I don't think that's on the government per se. I don't think that's on them. And out in Ghana, they are robbing businesses. There's looting going on also. And just when they looting and robbing the Chinese groceries, somebody released some kind of music video called Chinese about robbing groceries, Chinese groceries. Imagine that. Imagine that. And it's insane that some people tell us what they want. Some people tell us what they want is for us to behave like that. They think Trinidad will benefit from us behaving like that. That's what we need. No thanks, really and truly. No thanks. Happy to join. Jack cannot be in TDF. Remember there was investigation, right? Is Kamala physically strong enough to meet with world leaders? You mean Kamala? And I mean, if Biden did it for 4 years, I'm pretty sure Kamala is better than Biden. Nathan, I heard you went out partying last night because UNC won. My celebration was epic. I had a lot of grand celebration over that UNC win. But yeah, I would rate Mrs. Prasad Bissessa above one sleepy Joe Biden, and Biden was the leader of the world's preeminent nation for 4 years, going around the place getting lost and fumbling his words. So I mean, she's no spring chicken, but she's no Biden. That's the way I'd put that. Mudure is waging a secret war in Guyana without anyone knowing. I don't know if that's true. I think if you were waging a secret war, I am almost certain that people would know. Even Maduro is alleging that the CIA is already in Guyana. And I don't doubt that he may very well be correct. Age crept up on Biden. No. Age didn't creep up on Biden. Biden entered in 2020 already looking like a skeleton that had no place being there. The man was fumbling himself since 2020. So, age didn't creep up on Biden. it slapped him somewhere around 2017, 18, and he still decided to crawl himself up and put himself in that position. So no, Abdul, I would not have you. I would not have you. How you know that? All right, people. It's a short one today. It's a short one. We're going to discuss all these things tomorrow. Tomorrow discussion will be lively. Tomorrow we'll have a lively discussion. Thursday, tomorrow, it's Thursday Talks. Jump in, come prepared. All who want to talk, make sure you jump in tomorrow, and we'll be talking about all of this stuff. Come with your questions, come with your debate, come with your argument, whoever you want to come with. We chilling and talking tomorrow. Any homework? See what your view is on the position of women in leadership in society. Oh, that's going to make a good discussion. Poor Erla. I'll end as I opened. Poor Erla. Poor Erla. Erla missed the photo opportunity. Listen, we might have gotten some front pages across the world with that one. You know, you all know the Western world loves nothing more than a Who Run the World girls. Tanti Erla. Shucks. I feel it for you. If only you missed the opportunity. Alright, people, that's all I have for now. Be educated, informed, or entertained. I am Nathan Springer. This has been the Mindful Live Show. I'll be here again tomorrow for the next one, starting around that 9:30 p.m. time. Until then, people, hold it down. Stay well, stay good, stay inside, outside. Little sketchy. Careful outside there, careful outside there. But it's a brand new day in Trinidad and Tobago. New leadership. Coming tomorrow, I believe it's the swearing in of our brand new old Prime Minister, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, for the second time being the first female Prime Minister in Trinidad and Tobago. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. Be mindful, not mindless. Peace. I'm gone.